In the headlines, the U.S. Ambassador to Guyana, Sarah Ann Lynch, says individuals whose visas have been revoked by the United States government will be informed by the consular section of the U.S. Embassy.
At the highest levels of the State Department, it was determined that individuals have undermined that democratic process, and so he spoke.
CARICOM to hold special meeting in Guyana next week. 8 p.m. curfew, outdoor dining allowed, and public servants will return to office work as Phase 3 of Guyana's reopening commences. Guyana records its 19th COVID-19 related death. A young entrepreneur opens an outdoor restaurant during the pandemic, while a law enforcement officer launches a business to empower youths. And in sport, Sibley and Stokes give England first the advantage as second test begins at Old Trafford. With the news, I'm Avenash Ramzan. Thank you very much for joining us. We started by telling you that individuals whose visas have been revoked by the United States government will be informed by the consular section of the U.S. Embassy, while those without a visa will find out when they apply and go in for an interview at the embassy. The visa sanctions were announced on Wednesday as the United States and the international community grow impatient with key officials of the Guyana Elections Commission GCOM and the coalition APNU-AFC, who are bent on using fraudulent votes to declare an election's results and keep David Granger and his government in office. U.S. Ambassador Sarah Ann Lynch on Thursday, speaking during a virtual press conference, said the sanctions were targeted at particular individuals.
The Guyanese people have exercised their civic right, and they deserve to be heard. But due to continued electoral improprieties, the people have not been heard after 19 long weeks. As such, the Secretary of State announced visa restrictions on individuals that have been responsible for or complicit in undermining democracy in Guyana. Immediate family members of such persons may also be subject to these restrictions. These restrictions are under the authority of the Immigration and Nationality Act, Section 212A3C, to restrict visas to those whose entry into the United States would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences. Visa records are confidential under U.S. law, so we are not able to identify the individuals or provide details on any individual visa case. The international community has been clear that it stands with the Guyanese people and that there would be consequences for individuals who seek to undermine democracy. Over 130 countries are represented through various statements from the Organization of American States, the OAS, the Commonwealth, CARICOM, the European Union, as well as multiple bilateral messages and calls for the process to be free and fair. The events following the March 2 elections, some of which I personally witnessed, indicate that there are forces that have repeatedly refused to accept the will of the people at the ballot box. Guyana's non-democratic trajectory is dangerous for its citizens and for the hemisphere as a whole. I hope that Guyana's leaders understand what is at stake if it continues down this path.
Could you tell us how many persons are affected by the visa restrictions, and if you could say what categories of officials you're looking at?
Good to see you, Neil. No, per U.S. law, we are not able to talk about the individuals, so we're not able to name names, and I'm not going to get into numbers. We reserve the right to review any actions that are occurring in Guyana at this time, and we will review various cases and actions and make determinations as necessary going forward. The Secretary of State has spoken out for several weeks about the potential for serious consequences should Guyana or should individuals in Guyana continue to undermine the democratic process. At the highest levels of the State Department, it was determined that individuals have undermined that democratic process, and so he spoke. He stands by his word.
Meanwhile, the U.S. ambassador expressed confidence in the chair of GCOM, retired Justice Claudette Singh, saying she was shocked and appalled at the dangerous statements and the actions that have been directed at Justice Singh. The ambassador described Justice Singh as a person of utmost integrity and a distinguished jurist who has given decades of her life in service to the country. The 15-nation Caribbean community, CARICOM, will next week hold a special meeting in Guyana in the face of President David Granger's refusal to concede defeat, though a national vote recount broadcast on national television showed he lost the March 2 elections. This is according to Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and CARICOM Chair Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. The Prime Minister made his comments during a radio interview with Richie B. on Jamaica's Edge 105.3 FM.
Even though the CARICOM team put out a report, and they put out the report and said, listen, this I wasn't dotted and that T wasn't crossed, but the elections fairly represented the will of the people. And these are the results. And it is for the GCOM, Guyana Electoral Commission,
yes,
through the chairman, retired Justice George Claudette Singh, to declare the result. But every time you have a forward movement, there's always something trying to put a fly in the ointment. Even after the CCJ pronounced with clarity, I read the judgment over and over, and the CCJ addressed, to my mind, all the issues, unless, of course, you're a type of person, you look in the plains of St. Catherine and you see a brown cow grazing in the field, and you insist that it is not a cow, it's a calf, and that is not a brown cow, it's a white cow with black spots. You know, I mean, what can you do with some persons who do that?
yes. There's a great deal of defiance going on. It's turning out, Prime Minister, to be a bit of an unending battle. The question is CARICOM authorized to take any action whatsoever based on what is developing down there in Guyana?
Yes, I mean, CARICOM has different actions could take, and I wouldn't want to say what are the options available to CARICOM, because we haven't met as leaders, CARICOM heads of government. And I'm sure, I mean, I was in discussion with the Secretary General yesterday, and we agreed that we'd await, hopefully, a decision from the Guyana courts, because there was another meandering which took place there. And then we'll have a meeting hopefully early in the week. I don't know if it's Monday or Tuesday. I have had to call elections in 2005, 2010 and 2015. I respect the electorate so much. And I respect every person's vote so much. Is that the official residence of the Prime Minister, if you come here anytime before the polls open on election day, I will not have a toothbrush belonging to me in the residence, the official residence.
Really?
Everything belongs to me, I move out. And the night of the elections, when the results are declared, and it's clear that I'm winning again, I move back the next day with my toothbrush and a suit of clothes to go to the Governor General to be sworn in as Prime Minister again. You know, so I can't assume that I'm going to be returned. The people might decide to kick my butt, and if you decide to kick my butt, whoever is elected can just move in the residence the next day.
You have elections.
In other words, you have to respect the people, the right to vote. Look, Nelson Mandela went to jail for 27 years on that proposition, you know. It's a secret proposition.
Guyana enjoys the benefits of free trade and visa-free travel with CARICOM countries. Additionally, thousands of Guyanese continue to benefit from CARICOM Skills Certificate, which allows them and their families to live and work in the region. A high-level CARICOM team had scrutinized the national recount of the votes and concluded definitively that it was credible enough for a declaration to be made based on those results. The results show the PPP beating APNU-AFC by more than 15,000 votes. The Chief Justice will on Friday hear a case brought by a party agent of APNU, which President Granger leads, seeking to block the declaration of the election's results from the figures generated from the recount. And we tell you now that the United Kingdom has thrown its support behind its Western allies, calling for the March 2 general and regional elections results to be declared based on the validated results procured from the national recount. The UK Foreign Secretary and First Secretary of State, Dominic Raab, tweeted on Thursday that it has been over 4 months since the people of Guyana went to the polls and the result is still pending. He said the Elections Commission should declare on the basis of the CARICOM scrutinized recount. Guyana deserves an elections result that reflects the will of the people, the UK minister said. This call follows an announcement that the UK has activated the processes to impose sanctions on top government and elections officials for undermining Guyana's democracy as pressure builds on President David Granger to concede defeat and allow the swearing in of the PPP's Dr. Irfan Ali. We tell you now that 1 week after a bank's DIH building collapsed on him at Rheinfeldt Industrial Site, Anthony Lowe, a construction worker, succumbed to his injuries at the Georgetown Public Hospital on Wednesday afternoon. Newsroom was reliably informed that Lowe of Mocha East Bank, Demerara, never regained consciousness after suffering severe injuries to the brain and lungs. He leaves to mourn his wife, who is 6 months pregnant. He is the second construction worker to have died in the incident. The 6 workers were employed by Home Designs to demolish the building. At the time, they were sitting under the building when it came crashing down on them, killing 61-year-old Jagmohan Bisesar of Parfait Harmony, West Bank, Demerara. When the newsroom returns, 8 p.m. curfew, outdoor dining allowed, and public servants will return to office work as Phase 3 of Guyana's reopening commences. The National COVID-19 Task Force on Thursday confirmed that Phase 3 of Guyana's reopening process will commence on July 18 and shall continue until July 31, 2020. Among the new measures to take effect are a change in the existing curfew time to 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. The curfew will not apply in regions 5 and 6 on Mondays to Fridays, but will be in effect on Saturdays and Sundays in those 2 regions. The curfew will be in effect for all other regions every day of the week. Meanwhile, the curfew in Aranca, Arangoi, and Maruca areas shall remain in effect from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. daily and will continue until August 3, 2020. The task force also announced the reopening of several categories of businesses. Food services and restaurants are permitted to be open for delivery, drive-through, curbside pickup, and takeaway service from 6 a.m. to midnight daily. Outdoor dining at restaurants will also be permitted from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. under strict COVID-19 guidelines. Private sector construction is permitted to resume, and clothing, shoes, and bookstores are permitted to resume operations. Public transportation services, except in Aranca, Arangoi, and Maruca, are permitted to operate at a 75% passenger capacity. All persons are required to wear a face mask in public at all times, and no more than 10 persons are allowed to gather at any place. Airports and borders remain closed. Meanwhile, the task force will allow the resumption of office work in the public and private sectors. This will take effect on July 18 and will see scores of employees who are remotely working from home for months now returning to the office. It will, however, be done on a rotation basis unless otherwise instructed by their respective minister or head of agency. Quote, all persons employed within the public service, a semi-autonomous agency, statutory body or state-owned enterprise shall not work remotely from home but shall work on a rotation basis unless otherwise instructed by their respective minister or head of agency, end quote. The notice that private sector entities may be opened but employees shall work on rotation as determined by their employer. Every employer shall ensure a roster is prepared, setting out a gradual return of employees, starting from the most essential and critical staff with 20% increment of staff strength every week, or a rotation system where 50% of the staff are at the workplace on different days to prevent crowded offices for a minimum period of a month, after which the situation may be reassessed. Employers are expected to ensure that appropriate COVID-19 guidelines are prepared and implemented to reduce the risk of transmission of the virus among workers. The guidelines should see the physical distancing, screening of workers, organization of work, preventative measures before and after work, procedures to be adopted when there is a suspected COVID-19 case at the workplace, cleaning and disinfecting protocols, and use of personal protective equipment, among others. We tell you now that a 36-year-old male from Matthews Ridge, Northwest District in Region 1 died on Wednesday afternoon at a Georgetown Public Hospital from COVID-19 related complications. He was identified only as Rockcliffe by hospital officials. It was the only name on record. Newsroom understands that a young male was in the COVID-19 intensive care unit. He is now recorded as Guyana's 19th COVID-19 death less than 24 hours after the 18th death was recorded. Hospital officials told the Newsroom that a young man was admitted to the hospital on June 29 with complications from a recent surgery. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Shamdio Posod, during a telephone interview with the Newsroom on Thursday morning, expressed concern that males are more susceptible to the disease. Dr. Posod lamented that males are not taking the deadly disease seriously. He also pointed out that when the disease first came to light, older people with underlying medical conditions were at high risk, but now young people are also at risk. Region 1 Burima Waini has recorded over 90 positive COVID-19 cases, with the majority in Maruka. The residents of this region had protested against a complete lockdown. With hundreds of people without jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic, Naaman Gill, a University of Guyana graduate who is also a law enforcement officer, started a landscaping business to provide employment for youths who were affected. He spoke with the Newsroom's Isanella Patwa.
25-year-old Naaman Gill has been working as a law enforcement officer for the past 4 years with the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit and the Ghana Revenue Authority. Over a month ago, with the COVID-19 restrictions still in place, he came up with a business idea to empower, train and employ youths, specifically from depressed communities. Gill, during an interview with the Newsroom, said he thought the idea of gardening and weeding would generate a second income under this health crisis.
OGen Superb Services is a professional lawn care services. We provide, our services that we offer is weeding, landscaping, pruning, drainage cleaning, pest control, land filling and land clearing. OGen is basically, it's kind of funny. I try to bring about this. You know, a long time they used to say, oh, people know how stuff works. So it's supposed to be old grandmas nurturing, you know. Why old grandmas nurturing? Because we learn a lot from back then. So what I try to do is try to combine how I would have seen the older folks do the lawn care services, do kitchen garden, because we do kitchen garden too. Or basically, when we finish our work, we try to give that nostalgic feeling that like, oh, well, this is how we used to do it back in the days. At the same time, doing it in a much modern way.
While Gill is creating jobs, he said he is also trying to show that this type of work is not degrading in any way. He is also passing on his knowledge of business management to the 8 persons employed so far.
I'm trying to help guys in my community, the younger guys in my community, not only where I reside, which is across the river, but in the quote-unquote depressed areas. I know a lot of young men in the depressed areas who are actually not trying to be victim of those names. You know, you might think that, oh, this young man comes from Arbeistung, or, you know, certain areas that we quote-unquote call depressed, but they have a lot of good persons in there. So I'm basically trying to use OGen Superb Services to give them work, you know, to at least they could generate an income instead of just, you know, just being there. I have a friend, they asked me how come, you know, you got a degree and stuff like that, why are you gonna clean drains and stuff like that? It's to show them, not because you have a degree, you know, you can't do this type of work. No work is degrading. And I want to use it as a motivating factor, basically, to get more young men on board, get them more active. As much as they're young, I'm trying to help them in such a way whereby they could learn management, because that is what I learned at University of Guyana, learn how to manage time and stuff like that. So it's basically my knowledge I'm passing on to them.
Agriculturist and gardener 22-year-old Joshua Macy spoke about how he came on board and now assists with the social media page.
So what I do is people contact us for gardening. We look at your plant pots. I go look at your soil. At the moment we don't have the testing thing for the soil, but I know how to physically test, because while at JSA they taught us how to do that. So I test your soil. If the soil is not what I'm looking for, I tell you what you have to buy, manure. So right now we're doing organic stuff. So manure, we buy the potting soil, coconut husk, and so on at OGM. Also, I am the PR. It's something that I picked up while working, so that's a self-taught. I also have a YouTube page where I do garden tips. My page is 2J Macy Pharmacy Gardening Tips. So I saw somebody posted, and I'm like, yeah, are you guys hiring? Do you want tips? And right away, got his number. We tick. I went on the first job we ever done. I was there. So since then I've been on board.
Meanwhile, 18-year-old Emmanuel Ford is working with OGN Superb Services to help pay for his University of Guyana fees.
I saw it as a great opportunity, like get money, save up, as how we inside doing nothing instead. Yeah, so that's why I joined. How this would help me with UG? Basically, I come from a background where money is. Yeah, so I currently use student loan at UG. The money is to help with the transportation to UG.
Meanwhile, Gil further explained that he plans to have the youths certified and trained in this field.
For the young persons who have ideas, not too sure of those ideas, business ideas, all it takes is a start. You have that start, perseverance and determination, everything is possible.
Reporting for the Newsroom, I am Isanella Pato.
We now bring you an update from the Ministry of Public Health on Guyana's COVID-19 situation.
Now for the update in Guyana. The dashboard as of July 16th will be posted later with the updated results. Fellow Guyanese, I wish to emphasize the Ministry's deep concern about the increase in cases, even as we appreciate the upward trend of our recoveries. As we have been pleading through our briefs, it is imperative for all of us to adhere to the guidelines outlined for our safety. Friends, we cannot allow the exponential increase in cases to continue and overwhelm our health workers. I am therefore relying on all residents, Tushaus, whistleblowers to respond positively and help us to reach those contacts that may be experiencing any COVID-related signs or symptoms or may have been in proximity with a COVID case. Further, restrict your movement in and out of these regions and remain vigilant concerning undocumented migrants from Brazil and Venezuela who may not have been quarantined. The COVID-19 pandemic in these bordering countries is still rampant. I wish to give you a breakdown in the number of reported cases in region and provide an update on some of the measures undertaken in Region 7. Region 1, 95, Region 2, 1, Region 3, 26, Region 4, 119, Region 5, 0, Region 6, 1, Region 7, 48, Region 8, 3, Region 9, 11, and Region 10, 10. In Region 7, the following has been accomplished, and the Ministry wishes to commend the efforts of all those involved in this campaign to protect residents from the coronavirus disease. The isolation center will be ready to house 10 persons. 107 nets have been distributed to minors. The number of tests done so far is 273. 96 plus samples prepared and ready for transport to the lab, pending results of 77 samples. 8 positive cases sent to Bartica. Morale of team members remains high and conducive to the realization of mission objectives.
A young business owner is taking the bold step to open an outdoor restaurant during COVID-19. During an interview with the Newsroom on Thursday, Mario Joseph explained how he plans to operate under the restrictions.
My name is Mario Joseph, and I'm the owner of the business we're in front of, Mario's Juice Bar.
Mario Joseph, owner and founder of Mario's Juice Bar, never imagined that he would be expanding his business under restrictions and uncertainty due to the coronavirus pandemic, but he invested a lot and feels now is the opportune time to open the Sheriff Street, Georgetown location. The business was birthed while Joseph was an economics student at the University of Guyana about 5 years ago. He started off with a mobile food outlet at the university's campus, but he had to close it down because of the virus.
This location here is new, but we started out humbly at the University of Guyana. As a student there studying economics, I saw the need for better, improved food services, so I embarked on a journey to do some market research, which was sanctioned by the university admin, and after yielding positive results, I applied to start a business up there. The process took about a year, during which we built a mobile food trailer that is at the University of Guyana and has been there for the last 4 years. Prior to that, we used to have the trailer moving around Georgetown, and it was a difficult time while we waited for that approval at the University of Guyana.
Joseph said he did an assessment and saw that there was a need for more food services.
I've been going around looking for food places that are open to buy things for myself and to see what the conditions are around Georgetown. A lot of places are closed and a lot of people are flocking the few places that are open. So I see this as an opportunity to fill the vacuum. People want food services. They're tired of staying home and eating what they cook, and there are a few options available right now. So I see an opportunity in opening now, and we have been supplying juice to a lot of customers, delivering, and they too have been asking. So based on that little bit of information, I think it's a good time for us to open now.
Mario's Juice Bar offers healthy fruit juices, smoothies and milkshakes, along with a variety of grilled foods. With restriction on social gatherings during this time, curbside pickup and delivery is offered.
We're also looking to do catered events and corporate services. We know the offshore bases and even the onshore bases have need for food services, and we're hoping as a registered agent with the Center for Local Business Development, we can probably gain one of those contracts to be a food service provider as well.
There are 4 employees at the Sheriff Street location, and the 2 persons employed at the UG location are currently off the job.
Well, opening a business is a very difficult thing. It might seem easy, you think you know to do something well and that's it. The very beginning is the hardest, and probably the first year will be the hardest. So my advice is to prepare for that. Think of things going wrong that you could never think would go wrong, and prepare yourself for a lot of stress. But if you manage to get past that first year, it is very rewarding.
The official launch for Mario's Juice Bar at Sheriff Street, Georgetown is scheduled for Friday. The owner assured that the staff will be taking necessary precautions to protect themselves against COVID-19. Reporting for the Newsroom, I am Isnel Patwo.
When the Newsroom returns, the financial, weather and bird reports along with sport. Stay tuned.